Welcome to Glioblastoma Strategies and Tactics with Eric Deisinger.
Hi everyone and welcome back. I know it's been a long time since my last video. I apologize about that. I've had some real life stuff come up. I'm fine, family's fine, we're all fine, just got busy with other stuff going on. So in this video, what I wanted to talk about is let's introducing another level to my strategy. I've gotten a lot of questions and comments, asking about why I do this, why I do that. And it's not only do you have to address my strategy addresses all the survival systems of glioblastoma, but there's also interactions that need to be encompassed as part of developing your protocol. And I'll explain this in this video, how important those interactions are to think about when you're developing your strategy and protocol. Okay, but first off, let's review the 9 survival systems of glioblastoma. And these are used in US medicine, Chinese medicine, and Indian medicine. And if you don't believe me, go look at a study on the NCBI or NIH database. If you see a pathway, a map of pathways for a certain system, you will see the systems identified with all the underlying pathways within that system. So let's review. The first one is angiogenesis, which is the creation of blood vessels by the tumor. The second one is apoptosis, which is the killing of cancer cells. The cell cycle is next, which is the cell division process. Drug resistance, which is the cancer cell protection systems it has. The immune system is the natural body's defenses for fighting disease. Inflammation is the body's reaction to disease. Metabolism is the uptake of materials by the cell, cancer cells, regular cells. Metastasis is the appearance of tumors in other areas of the body or the brain in our case. And then there's proliferation, which is kind of an umbrella system. It covers the growth of cancer cells, the growth of stem cells, and also the invasion process that glioblastoma uses. So, how this relates to my strategy and protocol is that my blockade strategy not only targets all the known standardized survival systems of glioblastoma, but it controls all the interactions of the systems to each other, which I will talk about and give examples. In addition, my strategy also encompasses a lot of the existing strategies that are out there on forums, in groups, that doctors are proposing, that medical industries are using. So, for example, starving cancer is used by the Care Oncology Protocol. The ideology is to limit glucose and glutamides into the cancer cells so it can't function, and it will induce apoptosis. Now, what's interesting about this, cell cycle, cell metabolism are all part of the division and uptake process for the cell. And so we have our first example here, how two systems, cell cycle and cell metastasis, work together to induce apoptosis or cell death. So that's number one. Another strategy that is encompassed by my blockade strategy is inflammation control. There is a popular idea existing that if you control inflammation, you can control the disease. There's another strategy that if you target cancer stem cells, you'll win the battle against the disease. This is encompassed in my strategy as well. And a lot of the strategies that are used by naturopathic oncologists, I've reverse engineered their protocols. They tend to prioritize targeting apoptosis and cell growth in an attempt to fight the disease. I also address chemo and radiation enhancements in my strategy as well. The immune system is addressed. This is important when you're going through standard of care because as in my example, I was taking blood tests or having blood tests every week during treatment because they were watching my blood levels during chemotherapy, because if they dropped too far, they would have to pause treatment. Fortunately, I was able to get through that on the first try. But I encompass addressment of the immune system in my strategy. And I include some things that don't seem to exist in other strategies and protocols, such as metastasis and invasion. And, if you don't control these things, if you don't control invasion, these are the tentacles that grow out of the tumor and invade the brain. And what happens if you let it go? They sprout up to create metastasis or tumors in other area of the body, or if not the brain. So this is describing another level of my strategy that I'm explaining now. The interactions of the systems to each other to induce a result in another system. Of course, you could take stuff that target apoptosis, but you can also, as in my example of starving cancer, address cell cycle and cell metabolism to induce another form of apoptosis as well. And so from all this, and I thought about this for a while and jotted down some idea, I came up with I affectionately nicknamed the 10 Commandments of Control. Now, I'm sorry, I'm out of character. I don't have my 2 stone tablets with 10 commandments on it, nor my beard. So I apologize about that. I'm not in character for this, but these are ideas I'm suggesting, because I'm going to stress again. I only know a couple people, including myself, that have posted that they have reversed the course of a tumor, i.e. shrunk it. The tumor was active, so it was metabolically active. Cell cycle was working. It was going through the division process. It was uptaking nutrients. There was blood vessels, uptaking all the materials it needed to continue to grow and work and operate. And I'm sharing some of the things that I've documented that I think work to fight this disease. I'm not, it's just my suggestions and things I've thought about as I review some of the things I've done throughout the course of my journey with this disease. So, number 1, controlling angiogenesis. Again, this is the prevention of new blood vessels. So, for example, as your tumor grows, it's going to create more blood vessels to supply the tumor with the material it needs to continue to grow. It's essentially the same thing if you live in a city and your population increases. You have to increase the road system so that the increased number of people can travel within the city. It's essentially how I relate angiogenesis and what it's trying to do. 2, kill existing cancer cells. We have, you have a disease, you can control everything, but if the tumor's still there, if you've shut it down, but the tumor's still there, you want to start getting rid of those cells. So, and you do this via the induction of apoptosis, and there's different forms of apoptosis that you can use to kill the cancer cells. Number 3 is to kill the cancer stem cells. These are the foremen of the cancer cells. They drive the cell processes. If you can kill them, the cells may not know what they're supposed to do, or they may, or worst case, they could continue on with their last instructions to keep dividing, growing, replicating, growing, dividing, etc., and etc. So, but you need to target this as well as other things to make sure that you get this disease under control. You need to limit the growth of cancer cells. So part of the process, once a cell divides, it's going to uptake nutrients and grow. You want to prevent that growth because this is another way it will induce apoptosis or cell death. Okay, you want to limit inflammation. In a previous video, I gave the example of a child falling off their bicycle and, bumping their forehead and they get a big goose egg. Now, the body sees this problem inside an enclosed space, but it's going to send all the cytokines and neutrophils to the site of the problem, and it's going to start inflating. But the problem is this is inside your head, not on the outside. And so you have something inflating inside the brain, which is going to start pushing it, whichever way it grows inside your head. So you have to limit or try to limit the inflammatory process. Now, we also have to enhance chemoradiation. If you're in standard of care, you want to look at taking things that can enhance the chemotherapy or radiation process, especially the side effects, the nausea, associated with chemotherapy and radiation. You need to support the immune system. This is the body's natural defense system. You don't want to get it in an exhausted state so your body has no defenses to fight anything. And this is, as I said before, this is important during the standard of care process, but it is also important after you've gotten past the standard of care process because your immune system, and I've seen this from my own experience watching, graphing all my blood work from every week during chemotherapy and radiation, and you can see it dive. But even after I got through maintenance chemo, it was still low. You need to build that back up so you have some natural defenses to fight this disease, or if you get a cold or the flu or something else, while you're in treatment, you have some defenses to fight it. So it's not as bad as it could be. And another thing that is rarely addressed is slowing the cell cycle and cell metabolism processes. Why? It is apparent cancer works faster than what medicines, repurposed drugs can fight it. How do I know this? Now, based on the makeup of my tumor, it was estimated that the tumor grew in 4 to 5 months. This was, reviewed by a tumor board and guesstimated. And My tumor was just under 7 centimeters at its biggest point before resection. Okay. Now, after I got through standard of care, as I've indicated in other videos, I've had a medium-sized tumor, 2.6 centimeters, that was active. It took me 12 months to shut it off, shrink it down to nothing, which is remarkable, but it shows one works faster than the other, and slowing it down will make medications work better. It will allow you to, or it should allow you to stay on top of the disease. That's why, ideas of just targeting cancer stem cells should control the disease. I don't fully buy that because it's a losing race. If your disease is progressing faster than your medications can work, that's no bueno. And number 9, you have to stop and kill the tentacles invading in the brain. Stop the invasion process. And this also leads to number 10 of preventing metastasis. These two interact with each other. Perfect example of this. If you have a lawn in your backyard, grass, you have one weed. This weed is your tumor. What's going on below the surface is the root system is invading through the soil. And what happens if you leave this unchecked? Boom, 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 boom. Weeds start popping up everywhere. This is a perfect example of how the invasion and metastasis process works. And if you don't get it under control, what's going to happen? We're going to go all the way back around to number 1, where angiogenesis starts, because once the cancer metastasizes, it's going to start building up blood vessels again so it can get all the material it needs and everything else to start growing. So, hopefully this addresses and explains the next level of my strategy, my blockade strategy, and the protocol that supports it. So, because it's not just doing one thing or a couple things. It's not only blocking all the survival systems that are known in the industry for glioblastoma, but it's also working on the interactions between the systems, and I also explained how the systems work together so that glioblastoma also tries to survive. So that's what I have in this video. If you have any comments or questions, please post below. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Glioblastoma Strategies and Tactics.